And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Doing the Work post-game show. As tonight, your number 7 and number 6 ranked Indiana Hoosiers thoroughly beat Illinois 93-61. Indiana now goes to 17-3 on the season and 9-1 in Big Ten play. I'm your host, Kathy Amos, here along with my co-host, Jeff Marlow, and we will break it all down for you on this edition of Doing the Work, the new show on the Back Home Network that's dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. And we'll start this show the way we start every show, and that's with our banner moment. And for me, I'm going to go back to the very first quarter and just a minute and a half into the game. And Allie gets the ball and she drives into the lane and has a little hook shot to score her first points of the night. And I wrote down, is this going to get her offense going? Because I think we've talked about for the last few games, at least offensively, she's been a little quiet for us. And then what does she do at the 7:40 mark? She turns around and follows that up with another layup. And I think the rest of the night she was off and running. And to me, I thought she really set the tone coming out. And to me, that was the banner moment because it set the tone not only for her as the offensive player tonight, but I think the whole team. They were all from the very first person that got in to the very last person on the floor, really set the tone with this team and were very aggressive, leading to the first quarter, or were the first half scoring 54 points, the most they've had in a half all year for sure. And really just an offensive fireworks show tonight. And I thought Allie really led the way. And to me, that banner moment at the 8:33 mark in that first quarter was really what set the tone. And as always, our banner moment today is brought to you from our friends at Home Field Apparel. They are now in the 5th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and they're the first as the presenting sponsor of the Back Home Network. And did you know that among Home Field's large collection of vintage IU apparel is a shirt commemorating one of the most successful seasons in the history of women's basketball? It's true. So when you go to the IU collection, you can find a T-shirt commemorating the 1983 season, which is when Indiana women won the Big Ten and made its first NCAA tournament appearance. And given what our team is doing right now under Terry Morin, it might be time for a new T-shirt. So if you don't have one, I'd highly recommend going out and getting that shirt. And of course, if you support other teams, there's or people in your life that do, the Home Field probably has something for you. They have well over 120 different schools with different unique vintage logos for all of them. And no matter what you buy, you know you'll be comfortable and the colors will last through many washings. Plus, you'll be supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly. So what could be better than that? So go to homefieldapparel.com and you can actually use our promo code HOME, HOME, to get 15% off of your first order. Again, that's HOME, HOME, for 15% off. So wear one for the team. Okay, now it's time to move the ball and find the open player and get some opening thoughts. And I will kick it over to you, Jeff, for Coach's Corner.
My bad. I had my mic muted. Kathy, I really want to piggyback off of what you were saying about Allie. The show on Saturday, we talked a little bit about Allie's struggles. And I thought she came out, as you mentioned, she came out and she really played well. We'll go into her stats a little bit later. But I thought it was a more engaged, a more aggressive Allie Patberg tonight. She was looking to be a little more of an offensive threat. And obviously, I don't have any inside knowledge, but it struck me as a kid that a player that the staff called into the office and said, hey, we need a little bit more of the normal Allie Patberg. We need the more aggressive, locked in Allie Patberg. And so to me, that was really one of the big things tonight. And I thought also, I know Illinois is not the top of the Big Ten, but this was, we had kind of struggled since the COVID pause. We had scored 50 against Michigan. I know we scored 80 against Minnesota, but that really took a really good effort in the fourth quarter to get to 80, and then only scored 64 against Purdue. And so to come out and put 93, a season high, up on Illinois tonight, I thought that was I thought the offense moved. I thought not just Allie. I thought the kids moved better. The ball moved better. And again, I know Illinois is not the best team in the Big Ten, but you still got to make shots. You still got to get open shots. And it was also nice. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more in the meaningful moments. The bench played well. And so I thought just an all-around all around good game for the Hoosiers tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, Jeff. So as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's win over Illinois, we will point out today's meaningful moments you might have missed, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most meaningful and important statistical notes from the game. You are listening to Doing the Work post-game show. Again, my name is Kathy Amos, and I'm here with my co-host Jeff Marlow, and we are breaking down Indiana's 93-61 win over the Illinois Fighting Illini. And today it's time for our meaningful moments that you might have missed. And Jeff and I might try to go kind of maybe quarter by quarter, since this game was Big Ten plus for everyone. Not everyone might have had the luxury of having the game to actually watch. So we'll kind of start off maybe with some of our first quarter highlights, Jeff. And maybe I already started off with Allie kicking us off for the game. So do you have any that you want to kind of point out from that first quarter?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of use that same segment though. Allie with a field goal. That came off an offensive rebound by Nikki Cardano-Hillary, and she also got the assist to Allie on that play. So that, and then Illinois followed up with a field goal on their next possession to make it 8-4, and then Alexa Goldberg on the very next possession gets a nice pass from Grace Berger for I believe a layup, and so that made it 10-4. So that segment right in there where to me that kind of showed us early that we were moving, we were looking for each other, and so that was the segment in the first quarter, Kathy, I thought really kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, I thought so too. And there was a time there right towards the end as well, about 2:43 left to go in that first quarter, where Allie really fought for an offensive rebound. We missed the shot, but then Keandra Brown got another offensive rebound and kicked it back out to Allie for three. And I think that's another example of just how many times the team was going up. We ended up, and we'll get into these as well, winning the defensive boards, but offensive boards as well. So I thought that was a good example of some great stick-to-itiveness, as my mom and I like to say, from the ladies, of really trying to go after those boards and still battle. Yep, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and then that first quarter, everybody was contributing. We go on a 14-0 run there, right in that segment you're kind of talking about. It started with Alexa Goldberg, 2 free throws by Alexa Goldberg, and everybody was contributing during that point. So for those who couldn't watch it tonight on BTN Plus, you really would have liked seeing the kids on the floor, because everybody was being involved. It wasn't just 1 or 2 kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, 30 seconds left, and Nikki takes the ball and drives it down for 2. And she becomes our 6th player to score with that layup. So in the first quarter, we ended up with 28 points, winning that quarter 28-8. Both Allie and Lexi had 9 points in that first quarter alone. And again, we had 6 players in the first quarter score. Anything else from the first quarter you want to point out?
Nope, that was it.
All right, me too. All right, moving on to the second quarter. The first thing, I'll just kick it off here, is I thought 8:38 already into the quarter, Caitlyn Peterson came in and she hit a 3. And we opened up in that quarter 6 on a 6-0 run. And I thought Caitlyn had a nice night today as well offensively. And that 3-pointer got her started as well. And she became now the 7th player that scored for us. So that was how we kind of started out that third quarter.
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off of, or we and I seem to be in sync tonight. Go back to the end of that quarter, Nikki's layup, and then it actually becomes an 8-0 run over the last 30 seconds into the first quarter. So you combine those two, that's a 22-2 run that started with, as I mentioned, Alexa's field goal, Alexa's free throws at the 5:50 mark. So about a minute 20, 5:50. So you're looking at about a 7-minute period there of game action where it was a 22-2 run by the Lady Hoosiers. What I picked out was a little bit later in there. Mm-hmm. Lex hit a free throw to make it 35-12 at the 6:16 mark. And then Nikki got a steal, and it led to a fast break, and Allie Patberg layup and an assist for Nikki, and that made it 37-12. So I thought that was a really key segment in the second quarter as well.
Yeah, I did too. And, we've been really focusing on offense, but I don't want to underplay our defense either. I mean, we came into the defense or into this game second in the Big Ten in points allowed at 58.7. So we held Illinois right at our average of what we're allowing them, but they've been averaging scoring 64 points. So only scoring 61 tonight, so holding them below their average. And in that second quarter, with about a minute and 34 to go, our defense was definitely on points because we ended up forcing a shot clock violation, and that was really nice to see that from our defense as well. So I thought on both ends of the floor, we played really well, and that was the play I think that highlights the defensive end for us. And then continuing that with a minute two, we had Wisney coming in again off our bench, and she had just a really lovely block at 102 left to go in that first half in the second quarter. So again, just wanting to point out a couple of the defensive possessions that I saw in the game as well.
Yeah, and the defense really did play pretty well overall. And then I'll also point out with 2:07 to go in the half, Allie had a field goal, and that was her 19th point, and then followed that up on the next IU possession. She hit another three, and that was the previous was her 18th. The three gave her a season high in the first half. She had 21. That was her season high. Of course, she will talk a little bit more about her overall numbers, I'm sure, here in a little bit. But that segment there were just that Allie, you could tell by that point, Allie was kind of hot. She was in, as Dan Patrick used to say, in fuego, and she was, almost heat checks at times.
Yeah, she was definitely looking for her shot tonight from the beginning to the time that she stepped off the court. She was looking for a shot, and she was making her shot. So really nice all around game from Allie. Anything else, I think, in the first or the second quarter that you want to touch on?
No, just again, we focused on a couple kids, it seems like, but everybody really was contributing. I think we had 4 kids with 7 or more points in the first half.
Yeah. And maybe I do have one other one just to highlight again in that second quarter with about 3 minutes to go. Nicole Cardano-Hillo had a fairly close to a wide open three. And instead of forcing that shot up, or not really forcing it because she was pretty open, she actually passed it to Grace Berger, who was wide open under the basket. So I thought that was, again, indicative of how the team played tonight. They weren't trying to force it. They were taking what was given to them, and they actually made the extra passes quite often to maybe go from a good shot to an even better shot tonight. And I thought that was a good example of that from Nikki.
But Kathy, isn't it amazing just how much better you feel as a player when you see a couple shots go in, and then it just kind of leads to, it just builds confidence, and that's just kind of the nature of the game. And they made me, one of the things I thought this team was struggling with a little bit here, not just in loss to Michigan, but even a couple of the games prior to the COVID and coming out of the COVID pause, that they just didn't quite have that swag. They didn't have that, that bounce in their step that we're going to come out here and we're going to make some shots. It seemed like every game was kind of a grind, and maybe because they were still trying to adjust to Mac being out. But I thought the announcers, and I know you don't listen to the BTN Plus broadcast, I do. Yeah. I thought they made some good points tonight that if you can get this team to start clicking a little bit, and then you get Mac back, they really could be fun to watch come tournament time.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. So they ended up that half up 54-24, so up by 30. They outscored Illinois 20 in the first quarter and 10 in that second quarter. So again, 54 points, just as a reminder, that's the most points they've scored in a half all year for sure, if not maybe even going back more than just this season. I wouldn't be surprised. It was really quite a performance there offensively for sure. Okay, so moving on to the third quarter. So again, we come out in the third quarter, and Illinois actually starts pressing a little bit more here. And but from the first, I think this was the first possession, we broke the pass to have Nicole pass down underneath for Keonda Brown for a quick 2. And so I don't think their press really, for the most part all night, bothered us. And that was an example of that play to me again. But I thought for the most part, we had absolutely no problem with that press tonight. Maybe a couple of times it got a little close to getting it over the half court point or line, but overall, I didn't think it bothered us. But what are your thoughts on the Illinois press that they started in that second half?
Well, first of all, there were 2 thoughts I had as a former coach. It perturbed me a little bit that you waited until you were down 30 to start throwing the press at me. And well, at least we still had our starters. And that used to be one of my pet peeves when I was coaching was I'd pull my starters and then you wanted to press my subs. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm taking my starters out here. But I didn't understand that because I just, if you really were going to try and get back in the game, why didn't you press earlier in that first or second quarter when it was starting to get away from you? So, and I know every coach is trying to do a different thing. I'm not trying to judge Illinois' coaching staff or anything, but that just seemed like a strange move to me, especially considering we're pretty guard heavy right now. It shouldn't be a team that really gets bothered by too much pressure from that. So, that was just kind of the way I felt about it. And then I'll kind of go a little bit later in the quarter, 7:25 to go in the third quarter. Grace hits a field goal, followed by, I believe the way I have it written down, next possession, Chloe with a field goal. And then the next possession, Allie hits another three. So it went from 58-31 to 65-31 in three possessions.
Yep. I had that similar as well. So the other thing I have written down from the third quarter is actually right at the end, so 28 seconds to go, Grace actually traveled, and it was uncharacteristic of the team tonight. At that point, it was only our fifth turnover for the team. So through three quarters, we only had 5 turnovers. And again, we'll get into the numbers, but for 5 turnovers in 3 quarters, I thought that was really good. And so even though it was a negative from Grace, and why I wrote it down though, was to highlight that travel was only our 5th turnover in the whole game, at least 3 quarters into it. But what else would you like to pick from the third quarter to kind of highlight?
Well, I was trying to put something into the chat with the workaholics here. I really didn't have much else. The third quarter kind of was a back and forth quarter. We'd run off like 4 or 6 points in a row. Illinois would run off 5 or 6 points in a row. It was a pretty close quarter. We ended up winning at 19-15, but also it's hard to maintain. And I thought, and I give Coach Morin and the staff credit. They started to sub a little more liberally there in that third quarter. Chloe obviously got minutes, but so did Caitlyn Peterson. So did Grace Wagner. So I like the fact that we were getting some kids in there that hadn't been getting some time. And that's why I was kind of responding to Denny talking about the subs looking at ease. I think that's a byproduct of more playing time. And I'll pull this up here, I guess, more than since we're really not doing per se meaningful moments. We're just kind of talking about the game in general. Yeah. I thought that the subs tonight obviously scored, and we're going to talk about some of that in the stats, but they didn't turn it over. All right. I do have the stats here right in front of me. I'm trying to look real quick. Grace Wagner, no turnovers. Chloe, 1 turnover. Caitlyn Peterson, no turnover. So the 3 main subs had only 1 turnover. You may not get them to score as much as you'd like, but if you can trust them to go out there and not turn it over, you can trust them to be out there longer. And I thought that was huge.
Yeah, I agree. The only other thing I think in the third quarter is when Nikki went out. So that's the downer. She tweaked one ankle in the first half, and then she really I guess it really should have been a foul when she came down and landed on the other girl's foot and rolled her other ankle and came out and wasn't able to come back in. She was definitely icing it. And I think Quang was asking if we had an update. Ari is our guy in the press for us, and he's actually at the game, probably in the press conference right now. So if he can join us here in the chat later, I'm sure he'll have an update. But if not, I'm sure, hopefully, if he gets one from Coach Morin, that he'll put it in his post-game write-up. But usually, I'm sure it'll be it's a wait and see. So hopefully, she'll come back for the next game, which is on Saturday. But okay, anything else from the third quarter, Jeff, that you want to talk about? Cool.
Nope, that covered it for me.
All right, we'll move on to the fourth quarter. And I think what you were talking about with the bench is what dovetails right into the fourth quarter for me, which is we actually came out and started with three bench players to start that fourth quarter. And just kind of highlighting it throughout. We always had, I think at that point, we always had at least 3 bench players. And by the end of the game, we had all 5 were bench players playing. Mm-hmm. So the fourth quarter really belonged to our bench. But what kind of specific plays would you like to talk about?
For me, the fourth quarter kind of became the Caitlyn Peterson coming out party. She hit a 3 with 4:39 to go. She followed that up on the very next possession with 4:03 to go, hit another 3. And then Illinois hit a 3. And then Kaitlyn came back with a field goal at the 3:30 mark and drew a foul but missed the free throw. And so she scored 8 points, 8 straight points for the Hoosiers there in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, I had all those written down, and it started with actually Grace, where Grace really came down and was pushing the ball at that 4:39 mark. But then she, again, Grace with her leadership and her experience, she slows it down, waits, and hits it over to Caitlyn Peterson for that three that she hits. And yes, yeah, that 3:30 mark, that's when she really attacked that basket. And so not only was she making her shots, but she really attacked the basket. And that's she became the fourth player in double figures with that drive at the 3:30 mark, even though she missed her layup or free throw rather. I thought Caitlyn Peterson really showed out really good in that fourth quarter for sure.
Yeah, I would assume I'm assuming, I know we shouldn't assume, but I assume that's a career high for her as well.
I would assume so as well. And then, yep, as I already mentioned, at the 2:34 mark, we subbed in Zarek and Mona Zarek, and that became our 5-player bench lineup at 2:34 to finish out the game. So that was nice to see and great to see our bench getting in. And then, of course, we ended out the game with the 34-second mark and Chloe Moore-McNeil hitting a 3 off of a nice inbounds play that I think worked out really nice for the team. But anything else really you want to kind of watch or point out?
No, I'm with you. Just seeing some of the kids get off the bench and get some playing time, especially those three main, Kathy, those three main subs got plenty of time tonight. Chloe got 28 minutes, Caitlyn got 18, and Grace got 13.
Yep, great. All right. Well, I think this might be a great way for us to segment then. And next, we can just go ahead and jump right inside the numbers. So you want to go first, Jeff? There's a plethora of numbers for us to pick from here. So why don't you go first and pick your favorite for tonight?
Being the shooter I was when I was younger, I'm going to start out with the shooting numbers here for IU tonight. 34 of 59 overall, 58%. I'm going to round. I don't like doing tenths of percentage. We're going to go 58%. 10 of 22. And this is a team that's not a very good three-point shooting team overall. And 22 might be a number that would strike you as like, really? But we had 10, 46%, and 15 of 20 at the line. So you look across the board, our shooting numbers were outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Which was evidenced by the 93 points we were able to put up. So it was great to see. And it was fun to see the ball down. But on top of that, Jeff, we had 20 assists to go with those 34 field goals. So that's just a great assist to field goal ratio, and 7 again from Grace Berger. So I loved seeing the assist. The ball was really moving well tonight. And again, as I mentioned in a couple of the moments and plays that I pointed out, I thought they were really looking to make that extra pass to go from a good shot to a great shot. So the assist number was one for me that I really enjoyed seeing as well. What's another number on your list?
Well, I'll go to the defensive side of it. It being the coach in me. We held Illinois to 41%, 22 of 54. They were only 2 of 9 from beyond the arc, 22%. And I'm going to go ahead and probably steal one from you here. We out-rebounded them 35-25. And Kendall Bostick was the second leading rebounder in the Big Ten coming into tonight. And she was, I think you said in the text, she was averaging about 12 rebounds a game. She only got 7 tonight. And by the way, for those who aren't familiar, Kendall Bostick is an Indiana kid. She had played at Northwestern High School just outside of Kokomo. And actually spent a year at Michigan State before transferring. But there's a kid with an Indiana connection, so I'm sure she was probably trying to play as well as she could tonight.
Yeah. And on top of that, it can continue with your defense theme. Their leading scorer is Nye, and she averages over 11 points a game, and we held her to single digits with only 9 tonight as well. So I think, again, we talked about how Minnesota, I don't know where Minnesota came from. Illinois was way back land, I guess. Illinois normally scores 64 points, and we held them to 61. Kept them right at their average of 40% from field goal percentage. So I thought defensively they were really good. And then again, continuing the defensive theme, I'll talk about the turnovers. So we ended up with 10 on our end, but forced 15 turnovers. And again, to me, the important part is not just the number of turnovers, but doing something with them. We took the 15 turnovers and turned that into 21 points off of them versus only 9 for Illinois. So again, our team goal is 11 turnovers, and we kept ourselves to 10. The interesting thing, as I had talked about, We only had 5 through the third quarter. So you could see as we were getting our, less experienced bench players in, we ended up with 5 in the fourth quarter alone. Otherwise, we probably would have been in single-digit turnovers tonight as well. So you want to pick out any other numbers from a team perspective before we jump into some of the individual ones?
Yeah, I will point out, even though we didn't have Mac and Keandra only had 6 points, we still won the battle of points in the paint, 42-28. So that was another indicator, Kathy, that the ball was moving, the players were moving, and so we shot well, as we just said, shot fairly well from outside. But we weren't just settling. We were getting good shots, and again, Illinois, not the best defensive team in the league, but you still got to make the shots when we get there. We've seen this team struggle over the last couple of weeks, just making some shots that we would have been like, man, they normally hit those shots. So that and second chance points, 17-8. I thought those were 2 stats that, considering rebounding had been a little bit of an issue for us the last couple of games, that tells me we were going after the ball better too.
Right. And I got hot off the presses, literally, or hot out of the press room, I guess. Ari just texted us and said that Coach Morin said Nikki is fine, is planning on playing going forward. So there's our update on Nikki already. So, which is great news. Not surprising. I mean, after we saw her come out with her first ankle tweak and just really gutted it out. Not surprising that Nikki's going to be back. Okay, team-wise, I think the only other thing I wanted to just jump on again was talking about the aggressiveness of the players and the team, and how you talked about the points in paint is free throws. We got to the line 20 times, but they converted 15 of them, so 75%, which I think is a very respectable percentage, and I'll take that any day of the week for sure. So overall, from a team perspective, any other stats you want to talk about?
I know this wasn't one we won, but we got 23 points off the bench tonight. Yeah. And there's been games where we've barely gotten anything scoring-wise off the bench. And so, again, you may be starting to see Chloe, put a couple of good games together. Caitlyn Peterson getting a little confidence. That's all huge going down the stretch.
Yeah, and the main reason I think the Illinois outscored us on the bench is they had their Mackenzie gal that ended up with 14 points, which was half of their bench points by herself.
I think she was a starter or just till a few games ago, and they kind of tweaked their lineup. So you're really basically a starter off the bench.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's jump into some individual stats, and I think maybe the most obvious one to start with is Allie Patberg. We've talked about her quite a bit. She had 21 points in the first half alone, ended up with 26 points on 9 of 15 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3 points, and 4 of 5 from the line as well. She also had contributed 2 assists to the game and only 1 turnover. So just overall, from left to right on that stat line for Allie, I think she just had a very well-rounded game. Again, it's something I think we've been missing from Allie the last few games that we've been playing. She's been great defensively for us, but her offense has kind of been lacking. And this was a great coming back party for Allie. So I enjoyed seeing that bit. And what about Allie's play? What else would you like to point out?
I just, like we talked about in the coach's corner, I just thought that there had been times the last couple of games where Allie just kind of dribbled, and you didn't see that tonight. She was decisive with the ball. She was either going to shoot it, she was going to drive it, or she was going to pass it. And I thought that was the huge difference. The other thing here I'll point out, Kathy, is for maybe the first time I can remember all year, no starter played more than 30 minutes. Or put it this way, nobody played more than 30 minutes.
Nobody did. Yeah, we had two people, Grace Berger and Allie, that had 30 minutes exactly. But yeah, and then you had Caitlyn Peterson, Chloe Moore McNeil, both in double-digit points, or minutes rather, with 18 and 28, and Grace Wagner ended up with 13 minutes as well, which I was surprised. I thought she'd play a little more in the first half, but I was really glad to see that she really got a lot of run in that second half and ended up with 13 minutes. So how about you go next? Anyone else you would like to point out some individual stats on?
Well, I know I host the Grace Berger show, but I'm just such a big fan too of Alexa Goldberg. I mean, this is a kid that has really stepped up. We made this comment way back after the Nebraska game, and if I remember right, Lex struggled a little bit in that Nebraska game. I think probably trying to understand the new role she was going to play with Mac being out. But since then, she's played pretty darn well. And you go, Lex has tonight 18 points on 5 of 10 shooting, 7 of 8 at the line, 7 rebounds, an assist, and a block. And again, does another, again, I know Illinois isn't the best team in the league, but Lex did a really good job for the most part on Kendall Bostick, who was, again, their leading rebounder and held her to 6 points. So I just thought Lex's contribution again tonight was outstanding.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Second on the team with 18 points. Yeah. And second in rebounding for us as well. Let me go ahead then, and I'll talk about Grace Berger. I thought overall she was fantastic myself. She had 13 points, third on the team with 13 points, but she led the team in 3 categories: rebounds with 8, assists with 7, and steals 2, and only 2 turnovers as well. So I thought she just had a really good game. And again, like I think about some of the plays that she was doing where she showed her leadership as well, taking the ball down, really slowing it down, looking for that extra pass. And so I think she did a lot of the little things tonight that sometimes don't show up in stat lines. But I thought overall, I really loved Grace's game tonight.
Yeah, and I'll mention here Caitlyn Peterson, the freshman coming off the bench, 4 for 7 overall, 3 for 4 on threes, and she added a rebound, and she actually got credited with a block as well, a block shot as well. But that's our, so those are our 4 kids in double figures, and we really could have had more. I mean, it didn't work out that way, but we had I'll kind of keep it there, but so we had 4 people in double figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Great scoring all around. Our balance, would we end up with 8 players, right, scoring tonight? Yeah, 8
yes.
of our players scored tonight. So, and even the other 2 that didn't score, they still contributed. You had Zarek with an assist, and you had Wisney with a rebound. And I thought she had a block, but she's not credited with one, but I swore she had one. But I must have been thinking of someone else, though. Anything else from an individual or from a team stat you'd kind of like to highlight tonight?
Well, I wanted to mention Chloe here a little bit. She finished with 9, just missed double figures for the second game in a row. But I thought Chloe played really well. I didn't think she forced anything. I thought she let the game flow to her. She was 4 for 7, 1 for 3 on. She was 1 for 3 on 3-pointers. She had 2 rebounds. She had a steal. She had a block. The only drawback for Chloe maybe tonight, not getting the double figures, she spent some time on the bench in foul trouble. Yeah, she finished with 4.
Yeah, she and Keandra Brown as well. Keandra ended up falling out. And it was interesting because I remember looking at my husband, I'm like, I didn't even realize Keandra had 4 fouls. It was just like they were, I don't know, quiet fouls, or maybe just they didn't like disrupt our flow or something. But Keandra, yeah, maybe not quite the game from a stats line, but overall, I thought actually she played well in her 24 minutes, other than the fouls that she committed. I'm having trouble with words tonight, evidently.
No, but that's about all the stats I had.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. Okay. Are there any other storylines that you want to point out as well from the game?
I don't know if it's a storyline or a lingering question, but hopefully we can bottle it a little bit.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and we'll move on to our next segment. So you're listening to the Doing the Work IU post game show. You can catch us live following immediately following most IU women's games. And you can find us at our website, assemblycall.com. Also, make sure you sign up for the free IU Hoops email newsletter, where we have over 9,000 people of our fellow IU fans subscribed. So you can join today for free at join.assemblycall.com. Again, I'm Kathy Amos here with my co-host Jeff Marlow, and we are breaking down Indiana's 93-61 win over Illinois. And Jeff, now it's time for our game ball. So I will throw it to you first.
I don't.
Go for it.
Sorry, Kathy. I was so anxious. I don't think there's any real doubt here, is there? It's going to be Allie Patberg after a season high 26 points and the way she bounced back from a couple subpar offensive performances. So, I mean, we highlighted her stats already. We highlighted she's also doing the job on the defensive end. And I thought she did, and she only had one foul tonight, and I thought she played pretty solid D. So, Allie Patberg for game ball for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. To me, it's really no question. I think I probably wrote her down in like the third quarter. I'm like, oh, I don't see how this is going to go any other way. So.
I might have wrote it down at halftime.
Yeah, that's true. I probably could have. I know it was already in my head. So awesome. Okay, well, that's pretty unanimous that we'll make it a game ball for Allie. So that takes our total now. We have 3 for Mac, Nicole. That's Allie's third. Grace has 2 and Alexa has 1. And now it's time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, which is sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. You can go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. Again, that's evansvillesecurityservices.com. Okay, Jeff, who do you have for your Hoosier Hustle Award tonight? I think you could go about, I don't know, we had 10 players, so about 9 different ways on this, it feels like. So, but we got to pick just one, I guess.
I was probably kind of in that quandary of who am I going to go with here? But then fourth quarter did it for me. I'm going to go with Caitlyn Peterson, freshman off the bench, 11 points, a career high, and just thought, been kind of waiting to see this kid. She was kind of, we didn't have a high number recruiting class on the recruiting line because we had most everybody back, but she was a kid that was a big time scorer down in Alabama. And so I've just been kind of waiting for her to get an opportunity to show what she could do. And I thought she made the most of it tonight. So I'm going to go with Caitlyn Peterson on the Hustle Award tonight for me.
Yeah. So she's definitely a name I batted around as well. I had about 3 in my head. So I was originally thinking Alexa from some of the things that you're talking about. And I also was thinking about Grace, just because I loved all of her assists. Again, like 7 assists tonight and 8 rebounds for Grace, I thought was amazing. But yeah, it's hard to not give it to somebody who had a career night with Caitlyn Peterson. And like you said, in that fourth quarter, it felt like maybe, hopefully, a coming out party for her, hitting all those threes, being really aggressive. Now, if we could just get her to start, consistently knocking down her free throws. I know that's been a thing in the past too. She doesn't shoot a lot of them. So we just need to get her to start making the ones that she does shoot. So I you know what? I think I'll go ahead and I'll second your Caitlyn Peterson vote. How about anybody in the workaholics? Anyone got anything different about our Hoosier Hustle Award for tonight? I don't think any of them could be really wrong.
No, I had the same kind of going into the fourth quarter. I was kind of where you were. I was kind of like Chloe, Grace, Lex. I really was like, this is going to be a tough one, but I just thought Caitlyn kind of, deserved that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we had Chloe last game on Saturday with her career high, and including a double-double, and Caitlyn tonight. So I'm going to read off all of our Hoosier Hustle Awards. And I think this is just indicative of how this team is and how they share it. So Grace Berger's had 4, Mac had 1, Nikki has 1, Keandra has 1, Alexa has 1, Chloe has 2, Grace Wagner has 1, and now Caitlyn has 1. So if we keep up this pace soon, we're going to have all of our 10 scholarship players with a Hoosier Hustle Award. So awesome. Yep, Quang agrees here with Peterson. Yeah, Kirkwood Avenue News agrees with Caitlyn. So I guess we chose wisely. So, all right, that really, I think, takes care of that segment. But is there anything else from just the game itself specifically before we talk about our upcoming shows and then any lingering questions or storylines?
Yeah, and for the workaholics out there, if you got any questions you want to try and get answered here, kind of lingering questions or questions moving forward, put them in the chat. We'll try to answer at least a couple of them. But I thought also 13th straight win over Illinois. I mean, I know this probably should go back to the numbers. Third straight win overall, 13 straight win over Illinois. We're now 17-3 overall, 9-1 in the Big. We're basically second in the Big Ten now by about a game and a half, because everybody else besides Michigan has 3 losses. The only thing that's keeping us from being first right now is that loss to Michigan. We don't get to play them again. But to me, isn't it, I mean, Kathy, I mean, you and I, we've kind of grew up, you know, as Hoosier fans, and this was a program that at times really struggled. I mean, this was a program, and it just more and more, it's when you start looking at some of the things that they're doing under Terry Moore, and it started a little bit with Kurt Miller, but Terry's taken it to the next level. And with this group, 7 in a row against Purdue, 13 in a row against Illinois. I mean, these were teams that, especially Illinois, that we used to finish below. So it's nice to see this program starting to feel like it's building, and I should say building, being in a spot that we expect to win. And you and Ari and I were kind of talking about this in the text about how it's like Twilight Zone from where this program was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and since Terry Moore has got here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great transformation, and it really, I think, brought a lot of attention to themselves with the WNIT run, and then it's just built ever since then. And I know I saw a couple of comments on Twitter and in our chat too about why we're not on national TV tonight, being in the top 10. Part of that, I think, was our opponent playing against Illinois. You know, Illinois is second to last in the Big Ten. They've only won 1 game in the Big Ten, so it wasn't really a quality opponent. And I think that's changing it. And if you think back to even last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, how many games of Indiana in particular were on national TV? I would bet if we counted it up, we're probably getting close to double the amount. And I don't think we have a whole lot left that are going to be on Big Ten Plus, and we're either on Big Ten, Fox, or maybe even ESPN again the rest of the way here, except for a couple of games. So, So we're getting there, and the more we keep winning, the more we'll get on national TV. I think the other thing that will help is, you know, if we can get our league deeper and have, you know, teams that aren't like Illinois at the bottom, where we, you know, had a pretty good shot of this kind of a lopsided win. I think we'll see more and more of that.
Well, and you're right about the league, Kathy. You're always going to have teams at the bottom that are struggling. But right now it's the middle of the league. The middle's not as strong as it's been the last 2 or 3 years. That's really what's hurting more than anything. And that's probably something that's going to affect some seeding for some of these Big Ten teams when it comes along. I think as long as Indiana can maybe finish out with 1 more loss, or maybe 2, Iowa and Maryland will be tough, but depending upon MAC status. But for some of those teams below us, the Marylands, the Ohio States, possibly Nebraska, even Iowa, the fact that the league is not very strong, not very deep, may really affect their seeding more than it may affect ours.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the other thing too, just to kind of talk about with women's basketball and even a bigger macro outside of Indiana, outside the Big Ten, I didn't get a chance to read the entire article, but I saw a headline a week or so ago that just in general, the viewership of people watching women's basketball, according to ESPN, is up 25% this year over any historical numbers. So I think it's trending in the right direction. And, you know, we're trying to do our best here to get the word out about Indiana women's basketball, but women's basketball in general, you know, it's different from men. It's a different style of basketball, but it's still a lot of fun. Yeah. So I think as they continue to see more broadcasts out there, you'll start seeing more from Indiana as well.
I will say this, and I know this is an IU podcast, but there are some outstanding talent out there. Naz Hillman, obviously at Michigan, Caitlin Clark at Iowa. If you get a chance to watch Iowa women play, Caitlin Clark is an exceptional talent. And Grace and I had an interesting conversation. Not just Grace had nothing but positive things to say about Caitlin Clark in the podcast the other day. And unfortunately she's hurt now, but Paige Becker's at UConn. There are some there was a girl at Kansas State who scored like 50 or 60 in a game. There are some outstanding talent in the women's game and not just in the Big Ten. So if you ever get the opportunity to see some of these games on TV, and ESPN Plus does a really good job as well of putting a lot of games on TV if you have that. Obviously we want you to watch IU basketball. That's what we love, but there is some really good talent out there right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd second that with Caitlyn Peterson. Oh my gosh, we were watching one of her games, and if you've ever seen any Iowa game, you know they have that giant Hawkeye in the middle of their court. She literally was standing not on the edge of it, but like on the eye of it, and shot a basket and made it. It was just like, I don't even know how you could do that, but she made it look so easy. So okay, all right, we'll bring it back in. Any other
Yeah.
lingering thoughts about this game in particular, Jeff?
No, not about this game, but I did see that Denny wanted to know a little bit about the recruiting class coming in for next year. And I'm very good at names, Denny. There's a girl from Minnesota, I believe, might be Meister. She's supposed to be really, really good. It's not going to get a lot of top flight recruit ranking because it's just not a very deep class. Right now, I think they have 3 coming in. There's a girl from Michigan, Alexa Bargesser, I believe is how you say her name. Another kind of wing combo guard type that I think will fill in really nicely on this group with this group. And that's the other question that we've been talking about kind of back and forth between Ari and Kathy and I. Who's coming back? Allie's the only one that can't come back next year. She's done. Her eligibility is finally up. But Mac's only a sophomore, so technically she probably has to come back. She's coming back. But Grace and Nikki and Lex all have some decisions to make because with the COVID rules, they get another year if they want it. But they're also seniors and such, so they may choose to move on. So that'll play into how next year looks. And then there's a girl out of Israel, and I can't remember her name, but she's supposed to be a really, really good player overseas. And I will say this, that if she's anything, turns out to be anything, is like Alexa Goldberg coming in from overseas, I'll take that in a heartbeat because Terry Morin found a diamond in the rough when she found Alexa Goldberg over in Latvia.
Yep, absolutely agree. So, okay, well, let's talk real quick about our upcoming shows and our next opponent. So for the women, they play Saturday against Michigan State. This is a rescheduled game from when they had the long COVID pause. Unfortunately, that game will be on Big Ten Plus again. That game, it does tip off at 3 p.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. Central Time. Michigan State is currently 12-10 overall. They're 6-5 in the Big Ten. From a history standpoint, IU trails the overall series 47-30, but the Hoosiers have won 6 of the last 10 games. And as a side note, in between now and then, which is tomorrow, actually, Michigan State plays Michigan tomorrow, and that's a big game. So I think we are going to be all Spartan fans just for tomorrow, and hope that Michigan State can beat Michigan. Because if they can, that would put us back on the sole top of the Big Ten. So that's kind of our upcoming games for the women. Just as a side note, from a programming standpoint, right now there's a conflict. The men have a game that day as well, and so we don't want to try to overlap at the same time the men's game is going on. So Jeff and I are going to actually record our show on Sunday. We're still figuring out the time, but we'll put it on Twitter and try to get the word out. So we'll record it on Sunday. It will be live if you want to still join us on Sunday. If not, it will be, I'm sure, whatever feed you use to listen to your podcast. And of course, in between now and then, the Assembly Call guys will have their Assembly Call radio on tomorrow night at their normal time of 9 Eastern and 8 Central. Okay, so you are listening to the Doing the Work IU post game. Again, remember, don't forget to go check out our friends over at Home Field Apparel. And if you haven't ordered from them before, you can use HOME at checkout to get 15% off of your first order, rather. I was jumping ahead. It's time for last call. So Jeff, I'll let you go ahead. What's your last call for tonight?
Well, I'll kind of go back to the Michigan State real quick. This is a team that's really become a little bit of a rivalry. If you remember back a couple years ago, I think it was the WNIT run with Tyra Buss and Alexa Cahill. I think they went like 4 overtimes in the Big Ten tournament. Well, it's kind of almost an instant classic type game.
Yeah,
and then I think last year when Michigan State knocked us out of the Big Ten tournament, that game might have even been an overtime game. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head a little bit, but this has become a game, as we said, IU's 6-4 in the last 10 against them. So it's a game that's, been kind of a toss-up game when we've played them. They're guard heavy. Nia Clouden is their leading scorer at 21 points a game, 4 rebounds a game. She's got 91 assists. So you're looking at just about 4.5 assists a game. And then their other guard is Matilda Eck, I believe is how you say her name, 12 points a game, 3.5 rebounds. So they're really guard heavy. It's a matchup for us that really shouldn't be too bad. You just got to control them because they don't have a big solid kid like a Hillman inside. They're not post heavy. So it's a guard dominated team, but it's a team that we've really struggled with at times. We've struggled with over times. And the other thing I'll just say is my last call. Outstanding win tonight by the kids. It was nice to see them look like they had some energy, and it looked like you saw some smiles on their faces tonight for the first time in a while. And kudos to them. Kudos to the staff. Now let's get another one on Saturday.
Yeah, they definitely look like they're having fun. We did just have somebody jump in the chat and ask who we think is the worst matchup for IU in the Big Ten. So do you have anything off the top of your head in terms of worst matchup?
Michigan.
Yeah.
Especially if Mac's not healthy. But even with Mac healthy, Naz Hillman's one of the best players in the country too. And she's got some talent around her. Iowa's not an easy matchup because Caitlin Clark can go off for 35, 40, 45 points on a given night. The one thing about Iowa is they're similar to their men. They don't guard real well. So you're going to be, it's going to be a shootout most nights with the Hawkeyes. But Michigan's the one team in the league that really scares me in terms of like when it comes to the conference tournament.
Yeah, I would agree. And even with Mac, I think that's a tough matchup.
Yep.
Naz Hillman she is a force to be reckoned with. She's really a just very strong player and very skilled player. And I think even if Mac is back, if we run into him in the Big Ten tournament, I think that's a tough matchup for us. The Iowa one is interesting for us because, we're very strong on this is going to sound familiar. We're talking about an Iowa team, but we're very strong on the defensive end for us, but they're very not. And, but they are very strong offensively. They consistently put up 80, 90 points. I don't know what their team average is without having to look it up, but anytime I've watched them, they have consistently scored in the 80s and 90s, but they give up a lot of points. So that's why they're kind of in that, top part of the Big Ten, but what are they? They're third, right? Just right behind us.
They're tied with Maryland now, I believe. I think they're tied for third with Maryland.
That's what I thought too. So
9-3, I think.
Yeah. So back to our last call. So for me, it was fun tonight, and I hope that they take this and they really take this into the next game on Saturday against Michigan State. I don't want that to see a drop off there because, like you said, Michigan State, you just never really know with them, and especially with our history with them, I want them to come out prepared. And as a side note, for anyone that lives close to or in the Bloomington area, they're doing tickets for only $1. So if you can get down there, and what a great way to spend the afternoon, take your family, and really help fill up that hall. I was able to go on Sunday to the Purdue game, and we were the 5th biggest attendance that game, and it was just so much fun. In fact, we were almost 4. I think we would have been 4th if we would have had 5 more people show up. So it was just really, really a lot of fun, a great atmosphere. I thought the crowd was great, and I'd love to see that repeated. So if you can get there on Saturday, I'd highly recommend it because, boy, these women are a lot of fun to watch. So
yes, they are.
All right. And I think that will do it. So if you want to see us do the show live and be part of our live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/assemblycall. And don't forget to join our newsletter at join.assemblycall.com. And a special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design, who designs all of our logos. And a special thank you to those that are here live in our chat mob, the workaholics out there. Those of you who listen later at a later date, we'll be back again on Saturday to talk hoops with you, women's hoop.
Sunday.
And
the game Saturday.
The game is Saturday. We'll talk Sunday. Yeah, I can't keep myself straight sometimes.
That's fine. I just wanted to remind you.
Yes, thanks. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. And until we talk to you on Sunday, keep your elbows in, your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
See you, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
So, yeah, it's a lot more fun when you win by 30.
Right? Yeah, it
Oh
is.
man, I have to. I've been kind of burning the candle at both ends since Saturday when we got together for the meetup, and then Sunday I had some things here to do around the house. And I did the show, and then school's just been hectic these 3 days. I'm about exhausted, but I got to try and stay awake for AC radio tomorrow night because that may be a really interesting show, depending upon what we may find out in the next 24 hours about what they're going to do with the 5 who didn't play last night.
The 5, that's all we need to call them.
So. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But so it was an interesting post game show. I kind of fell asleep on it last night. I was like, man, 10:30, 10:45 was getting a little late for me. So.
Well, I think I told you I get up at 4:30, between 4:30 and 4:45, so there was no chance of that. But speaking of which, I think I'm going to call tonight, Jeff, so I can try to get a good 6 hours sleep here.
I agree, Kathy. Hey, you have a good evening, rest of your evening, whatever, and I'll talk to you Sunday. I'm sure we'll text, but we'll talk to each other on Sunday.
Sounds great. All right. Good night, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.